Is Johnny available? I don't see Johnny. We may, are we right on? No, I'm still 2 more minutes according to my, thank you all for being back. We call into order in just a minute. I show 130 straight up. Is that what you show? I will call to order the meeting of the Board of Trustees. Kay, will you read the roll call, please?
Hilliard.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Lowry.
Here.
Pardue.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Segurty.
Here.
Mr. Segurty, can you simultaneously hear and speak to the board members?
I can.
Could you identify any person present in the location from which you are calling?
I'm by myself.
And would you please confirm that you received the board materials in advance of the meeting?
I have, thank you.
Thank you. Stites?
Here.
Van Hooser?
Here.
Wilmore?
Here.
Harper?
Here.
Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. Before we get started with our official business, I just want to say on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we have a number of folks here in the room who are Cookeville residents. A few of you around the table are Cookeville residents and residents of the general area. I know Barry's a native of Mount Juliet as well. So I just wanted to express our sadness for those of you who have lost possessions and I'm going to say family members, but I know in some cases they were not direct family members, but people that in things that were important to you. We are just so horribly sorry, and I've asked that anyone who wants to contribute to the recovery effort on behalf of the Board of Trustees to give a check to Diane Smith, and so hopefully the board will be making a contribution, and some of our board members have already made those contributions. I also saw from the foundation board that there's been a match. Is Kevin here? Is Kevin still here? Then I'm just going to say this because I don't know if I'm not supposed to. That there's a $100,000 match in the foundation board now for people who want to give to the student fund that's there to help the students. And so even if you've already given to the city, you may want to take some more of somebody's money on a match. So, but we were horrified to see this, and so happy the university campus wasn't touched, but we know that the faculty and staff were impacted significantly. So blessings to all of you all. And then I also want to just thank the Faculty Senate. I know Dr. Smith-Andrews is here. I want to thank the Faculty Senate for joining us this morning. That was a tremendous, a good turnout, I thought, this morning, and a really tremendous opportunity for us to visit on the things that are on the faculty's mind and let us try to react and respond to some of those things. And I always come away from those with new ideas and new thoughts and different ways of thinking about things. So thank you. I need to report some very important board business. 4 of our current board members' appointments are in the process of being confirmed by the General Assembly. Ms. Van Hooser, Ms. Rose, Mr. Lowry, and Mr. Stites have all been through their confirmation hearings with both houses. If confirmed, Ms. Van Hooser, Ms. Rose, and Mr. Stites will serve on our board until June the 30th, 2025. Mr. Lowry was appointed to fill a vacancy on the board, so his current term will end June the 30th of 2020. And that's again if those are confirmed, which we don't have any reason to believe they won't, but we never can tell because there's just no telling what you might have said to him, Johnny. Just teasing, of course. I think we have a little video to run. By the way, this is for our spotlight on student and faculty excellence.
Okay, Miracle was born at 25 weeks and found out not too long after that she had cerebral palsy, which attacks most of her limbs. So she's not very independent on her own. She started TEIS with Tennessee Early Intervention System, and they put us in contact with Dr. Campfield. And from then, TTU offered to take on a project to help Mira be more mobile. From there, I think Chris and Stephen were the first ones to come out, and we sat down and they asked what they could do to help our family. We were super appreciative and anxious to see what we were going to get done. And after many meetings and measurements as she grew, we got our presentation today. And the delivery of her gait trainer and her, essentially, I guess it's a prosthetic spine, and it helps her sit up and be more independent, and we could not be more happier. This has just been amazing watching her little face as she has learned how to move herself and be able to sit up independently. So it's truly better than we could have ever expected. We were having a hard time with bathing and feeding and anything where she would just have to sit erect. Even the car seat, without lots of support, we were having a hard time. Without that extra support, she develops torticollis, which makes her even more sore. So with the trunk support and prosthetic spine, this has given her that support so that she doesn't develop torticollis. And it's also just as far as her sitting in her high chair or in the trainer or the car seat, it's just helping her be able to be independent. And it helps her enough that she's learning how to do it on her own so that she's, she's benefiting from it. It's not just doing all the work. So this is just going to be another huge step in helping her become independent. I've never met a team that I can't imagine that they could have been any better. They've kept us in the loop constantly. There was always the question of what else? What else can we do to help you? How else could we help her? There was never any falling short. They have just went above and beyond all of our expectations. We could have never expected it to be this great.
The board welcomes Dr. Stephen Canfield, and Dr. Canfield, if you want to come on up while I'm introducing, and a 5-member team in Tech's Early Intervention and Mechanical Engineering program. These engineering students and many others in Dr. Canfield's class help children and families in our Upper Cumberland region by building assistive solutions for special needs children and families. The students use their creativity, skill, and energy to spend time with the children and families, assess their needs, and build devices that simply are not available otherwise. This semester's featured project is a custom-made hybrid spinal support to help a little girl with cerebral palsy, and you all just got to see that. Dr. Steve Canfield, who is my friend and colleague, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having us, board and audience. This is Megan, Chris, and Shelby, 3 of the members. There's 2 others that weren't able to be here, Stephen and Dayro. Megan, you might say a word about the project? They did all the work.
So we introduced this with meeting with the family. We're all assigned different families within the community. And so ours was more than welcoming, and she had came to us with a problem of bathing, of course, and then also having to, when you're not able to flex those muscles within your torso or in your hips, the mother is her only dependent to be able to hold her and to be able to make her do the things that she needs to be able to do. And so giving her that freedom of either they had originally thought they wanted a chair, and so we had started with the idea of a chair, and then we started thinking we can do so much more than just give her a chair that she can use in the bathtub or as a stroller or any of those options. And so we had built this spinal support with hopes that she could use it with any other types of adapted strollers. She could use a high chair, she could use a bath chair, and this just helps her with not only daily living but also with therapy and trying to get more independent as she grows older. So I guess we'll kind of open up the floor if you guys have questions for us on the process.
I was just curious, I mean, as she grows, will you adapt this? Does it expand, or?
Yes, so if you didn't get to see it in the video, we made to where the spinal part has 2 slots so that the shoulder pieces can grow vertically with her, and you can also adjust the mid-support to go vertically or move it downward if need be. Also with the materials that we used an ABS orthotic style, and so what they're able to do is warm up that ABS and flex it to the different degrees that she may need as she grows. And so we all knew that she was going to be growing. We projected that it could grow up to 6 to 7 years old. So if she wanted to use it up until that point, she definitely could be.
Is this something that you invented, or are there similar things like it, or how did you come up with this? This seemed very creative. Is it patentable?
We're actually looking into a possible patent after this meeting. So we're going to be talking with the Biz Foundry and seeing our options. But there are a couple of different products that are on the market, but typically they're only for adults. So they have metal supports that are for the spine, and those are typically only available for adults. What is available for children, there's a clamshell that pretty much holds all of the torso within this structure. And what it does is it isolates those muscles. So those muscles are no longer trying to move. They're no longer flexing. They're no longer trying to better this child. It is immobilizing in a way. So what ours does is it allows her to begin to use these muscles and gives her a little bit of flexibility while also giving her the support she needs.
Who manufactured the device?
We did. So we had bought the materials, raw materials, and we went to the shop downstairs in the MET building in Brown, and also to the MET lab as well. We CNC'd it. We used a thermoform from the senior design lab and melted the plastic to where we could bend it to the proper shape. We even had to adjust it when we got on site to be more specific for her shape and size.
Well done.
Thank you.
I just wanted to commend you 3 and the other students that worked on this, but y'all are the definition of what higher education can do for people. You're changing lives, and you are doing things that, you know, a lot of people didn't have the opportunity to do, so I commend you for that, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We hope it doesn't end here. That's the one hope. I'm also working with Engineers Without Borders here on campus. We are expanding this effort to redesign it and be able to 3D print it and donate it to the hospital for the rehabilitation center. So the children who are getting physical therapy over there can use that with their gait trainers, and hopefully it'll benefit them to the best without cost to them.
Are there other questions? I have to say, this all makes me puddle up, so I'm sorry. But you know what I love that you said so much more. What a great message for our whole university, right? We can do so much more. This tornado has given us an opportunity. I know the staff and the faculty and the students all leaned in on the community earlier. You guys have leaned in on the community in a way that none of us could ever imagine, and we're so grateful that you represent us. So thank you. Wow is my only thing I can say, but can we give these folks a really big hand? You look like mere mortals, but I don't think you really are. So thank you all so much. Dr. Canfield, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And with all of that, now we get to talk about minutes. So y'all don't make me cry now again talking about minutes. We have the minutes in front of us in diligent, and so I would entertain a motion to consider the minutes.
So moved.
Motion to approve, I assume?
Yes.
Second. And the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do a roll call, sorry.
Jones?
Aye.
Lowry?
Aye.
Pardue?
Aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Sigardi?
Aye.
Stites?
Aye.
Van Hooser?
Aye.
Wilmore?
Aye.
Harper?
Aye. And I should say, just procedurally, we will be taking a roll call vote just because we don't have all of our members present, but we're very thankful. We have Perna. He was supposed to be traveling internationally, and Perna, we're sorry your trip got delayed or postponed or canceled, but we're very glad you could be with us. Phil, do you want to give your report?
Thank you, Chairman Harper and members of the board. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I probably should just curtail my report after what we just heard, because that's more than adequate to tell you what goes on at Tennessee Tech, quite honestly. And it's certainly why I find it such an honor to be here at Tennessee Tech, because that's the kind of students we have and that's the kind of faculty we have that make a difference. It's all about relevance. We talk about relevance a lot. As a higher education institution, if we're not relevant, there's no reason for us to exist. And so we always strive to be that way, and examples like that bring it really close to home about how we're changing lives, and we're utilizing students in that endeavor so that they feel the impact of the lives that they're changing. So congratulations to them. I'll try to run through these comments fairly quickly. We've got a lot to hit this afternoon. But as I was putting this together this afternoon, as I was thinking about this, it reminded me of an old John Lennon song from 1980. I think it's Beautiful Boy, that says, "Life is what happens when you're making other plans." And so the events that we have gone through over the last couple of weeks, and many of that we talked about in committees this morning, don't dissuade us from all our plans. We got wonderful plans here at Tennessee Tech, and we got a great strategic plan in place, and I'll try to update you on some of the progress of all that. But we know that we're always subject to disruptive external influences that are out of our control, and some of those have happened in recent days. So one I'll highlight here that Chairman Harper already brought up. Let me back up. So a week ago, early Tuesday morning, Cookeville, Putnam County was struck with an EF4 tornado. Now, fortunately, the campus was spared. We received no damage whatsoever from this, and everybody on campus was safe. Unfortunately, that's not the case for many of our friends and neighbors and some of our campus personnel. We've got at least one or two in the audience behind me that were affected greatly in loss. We had about a dozen or so faculty or staff that either lost homes, in some cases received medical attention, thankfully nothing life-threatening, but serious nonetheless. So in Putnam County, we lost 18 lives last week for a community of approximately 75,000 people in Putnam County, and another 10,000 adopted students I can assure you almost everyone in this community was either affected directly or knows somebody that was affected directly. So to say that this was not an impact to the campus would not be true. It was a significant impact to this campus, but I couldn't be prouder of the response that the campus had. Most of you probably followed that we closed campus of classes for a couple of days. One, to sort of assess where we were and make sure that no campus personnel were in harm's way and make sure we take care of all that. Second day was really primarily to enable a day of service for the students, and they turned out in massive numbers. I estimate well over 1,000 student volunteers. I'm sure it exceeded that by quite a bit. I just have no way of accurately accounting for the numbers of volunteers. I know that many of them went to volunteer and were turned away because there were more than could be accommodated in the limited space. And the safety of the area was in question, particularly in those early hours. But there was a pent-up anxiety and frustration on campus that played out in a really positive way. And I would say that our students particularly benefited substantially. As you know from being young at one point yourself, there's a point in your life when you realize life isn't forever. And usually that's kind of a shock to your system. For some of our students, this was that first dose of reality that life is fragile and that we're all mortal. And so I think that took a little bit of a toll. But probably even more importantly than that, we had students that maybe for the first time in their life realized how important and what the real value of community is, and how this community came together, and how Tennessee Tech is such a strong part of this Cookeville and Putnam County community. We're very proud to be here, proud to be part of this community, and I'm so thankful that we've been able to play a part already in the recovery effort, and we will continue to do that as it plays out. This will be a long recovery. It will take many months, possibly some years in some cases. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for students, faculty, and staff to continue to be engaged and provide assistance and support. We're happy to do that. In addition, as we've been talking about this morning, we're facing a major pandemic now. It's been officially labeled as a pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus. The university, we've been working on this, actually looking at contingency planning for several weeks. As we've continued to monitor the situation, as we've talked about already this morning, that situation continues to evolve and change, and we continue to get updated advice, counsel, information from the Centers for Disease Control, state and regional public health officials to help guide us in making the best possible decisions on behalf of the safety and health well-being of our campus. So there's a task force that we've created on campus, being chaired by Dr. Rob Owens, and they've been meeting twice weekly to continue to monitor the situation and to make sure that we're doing everything possible and that we're preparing for all possible scenarios. And as you can imagine, the list of questions is lengthy. Sometimes the answers are not so easy to obtain, but they're doing a great job. And as I have indicated previously this morning, I expect us to come out with another announcement later this afternoon about additional steps that the campus is prepared to make. So we'll keep the board updated on that as we move along. One thing that actually the timing of this turned out to be pretty good. I owe this to my first lady, my wife, Carrie Oldham. She came up with this wonderful idea that actually it doesn't cost a thing, so which is wonderful, even better. And that's Wings of Kindness. Carrie wanted to initiate this early this semester, and really it's just an idea to allow us to recognize those among us that go above and beyond showing kindness to the campus community. It could be a student, could be a faculty member, could be a community member, could be anybody. We recognize the first recipient as Jake Hoot. Some of you have met Jake. Jake was a local alum of Tennessee Tech, played football here, and a graduate, I think, in 2011. Most recently was the winner of NBC The Voice. Tremendous talent in terms of his singing ability, but just a kind individual, and we were happy to recognize Jake as the first recipient of that. We intend to make a lot more recipients, provide a lot more recognitions, and quite honestly, we've been a little set back on our heels because we've been dealing with so many other external disruptors recently, but there have been a lot of opportunities now through how the campus has responded to the tornado and other events that give us great individuals to recognize, and we look forward to doing that at the earliest opportunity. We put on each of your spot a arm bracelet about Wings of Kindness, and so you feel free to take that with you, and hopefully you'll enjoy wearing that. So I'll give you a quick update on some of the strategic efforts that are ongoing. I'm just going to go ahead and list all of these. So enrollment and diversity, that's a key area of goal for this year. We have developed a strategic enrollment management plan. Dr. Johnson is obviously leading that effort. Overall total target enrollment by fall of 2025 of 12,000 headcount students. Which have targeted first-time freshman enrollment for fall of 2020 of 2,000. That's our goal. We may or may not reach that, but that's our goal, and we're going to continue to press for that goal as a regular level of freshman class size attainment. With transfer enrollment of 800 and a diversity goal of 22% above where we are this past fall of 17%. So we are making progress. We have been very bold in defining what our objectives are, and we intend to keep our eye on the ball and make sure we eventually meet those. Yes, Johnny?
Can we grow to the 2025 number of 12,000 with our current footprint?
Yes, we can.
We don't have to build anything
No,
else?
there's, in fact, our current campus master plan accommodates more growth than that. We've recently done a pretty good study on classroom utilization on campus, which indicates that we've got the classroom capacity to go to 12,000 students as well. So 12,000 is not a problem at all. Getting beyond 12,000, maybe 15,000 in a decade or more, we'll have to do some more work in that regard. But 12,000 is very doable capacity.
So how far can we go with the current footprint in your estimation?
Yeah, I think we could accommodate 12 or 13,000 without any trouble. Beyond that, we'd probably start seeing a little bit of growing pains. So budget and legislative updates. We were second in the funding formula this year. You may recall last year in the state funding formula we were number one. 2 years ago we were number two. So the last 3 years we've either been first or second in the state in the funding formula, which means our performance indicators are among the best in the state consistently over that time period. So that means we get a little bit bigger share of the state funding pie. As you heard in committee meeting earlier this morning. And so our highest budget priority for the legislature, as I've spoken with them on a couple of occasions now, is to fully fund the funding formula, which I expect that they will. It's in the governor's proposed budget as well. The engineering building is also obviously a very high priority for us, and since it is the number one capital outlay project priority in both the THEC recommendation and the governor's budget, I have no reason to suspect that it won't be fully funded this year. You will recall that we received $3.25 million last legislative session to begin the planning process and design phase of the building. Design is well underway now. Designers are in place. They're finalizing some of the programming that had been done earlier with the building, and I would expect the building to be fully designed in a matter of just a few months, and hopefully move on to breaking ground within probably 12 months from now. Cybersecurity, this is the last of a 4-year commitment for cybersecurity funding from the state, $500,000 a year. This project has gone exceptionally well. Dr. Amberine Siraj is our lead faculty member in cybersecurity. Amberine recently testified before the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Science and Technology in cybersecurity workforce. So it speaks very highly of the credentials, not only for her, but what we have going on here in terms of cybersecurity workforce development. This is a program that we obviously want to continue to push. There's about 3,000 open jobs in Tennessee alone right now that can't be filled in cybersecurity. So there's tremendous demand, and I think it's really clear that we have the best cybersecurity program, education-wise at least, certainly in the state, probably in the South.
Dr. Oldham, can you sent to me, or somebody sent to me, the link of her testimony?
Yes.
And I would just highly recommend that the board have an opportunity to see that it's not technical, it's you would understand every word she says. And it is so powerful. I was so proud of her and of the university. So if you could, maybe Diane or somebody can send that out.
We will definitely get that to all the board
everybody.
members. And you will be very proud of her testimony. And it was extremely well received in Washington. I mean, this is an area that's really bipartisan in nature, one of the few that is, I think. And so it's a good place for us to be. We really appreciate Amberine's leadership, and we've really doubled down on this. You may recall that we went out and did a cluster hire of new faculty last year, 5 new faculty positions in computer science, clustered around largely around security, so that we really beef up our efforts in there as well. So. New engineering building, I've already mentioned, and Dr. Braswell did a good job earlier this morning talking about where we are with fundraising. It's an $8.25 million goal for matching commitment for the building. We've raised just north of $5 million in either cash on hand or pledges committed toward that 8.25. We fully expect to get the rest of it pretty much in short order. We have a lot of funding proposals out with donors currently being evaluated, and we look forward to closing this off and getting this project moving very quickly. It's exciting. First new engineering building in 50 years. Definitely overdue, and will go a long way to creating the kind of curb appeal that we all want for our signature college here at Tennessee Tech. The public-private partnership I've talked about probably briefly before with the board. It's an idea that we would develop the west end of what is now Sherlock Park with a residence hall, if we can identify a P3 partner, a public-private partnership, that would come in and develop that property for us with a residence hall built around an innovation theme. So approximately 300 beds, and the entire lower level, entire first floor would be developed for innovation and makerspace. So you can sort of think of the iCube facility in that on that lower floor of the residence hall, sort of on steroids maybe, and in a place where students can live and learn on a 24/7 basis. So if they get an idea in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., and they say, hey, I want to go down and prototype something, it's just right there. So it's a great opportunity. We expect this to be about a $30 million project. We'd also anticipate being able to create space, possibly for rental opportunities for companies in the region that want to interact with students directly on campus internships, or innovation projects, that we would have a way of bringing them into that unique space and students benefit from that direct interaction. So we're excited about this. We haven't found the right P3 partner yet, though, quite honestly, and we continue to look. We do have the opportunity to develop this property ourselves. We could do that, and that may be what we end up doing, but we'll just wait and see. I'm going to try to get us there as quickly as possible. Research-wise, as Dr. Bruce indicated this morning, she's chaired the search for Vice President for Research. That search has been completed. The search committee made recommendations to me a week or so ago. I'm in negotiations with a leading candidate currently. I was hoping that we would have possibly an announcement with seeking board approval today. That is not quite the case yet, but the negotiations are going well, and I would expect to be able to get something before the board pretty shortly. Office of Research has also been going through an internal assessment. That has been completed. The new vice president will have an opportunity to review and oversee any changes that they see fit based on that review. The good news is that we activated over $20 million last year, this last fiscal year, in research, sponsored research. I think that's a historical high for Tennessee Tech. And as of this year, by mid-year, we had already passed $16 million in research contract activations. So we're on a good path. We're on a good trajectory. We want to make sure we continue that progress. Again, the goal, as I've challenged the campus, is by 2026 to reach $40 million in research activation. So that's a stretch goal, but I think it's gotten a lot of attention on campus, and I think there's a lot of energy currently that will help us get there. So Tennessee Tech tomorrow, I'll just kind of list through these, and we can talk about any of them you're interested in. But Tennessee Tech tomorrow, obviously, is our strategic plan. Where are we on progress? Well, here's a list on the left of a number of them that are essentially completed. We've academic program gap analysis, e-transcripts, getting transcripts online has been actually a significant achievement, something we've wanted to do for a long time. Career readiness certifications. We enabled a chief diversity officer that I know the board has been very engaged with that as well, and looking forward to continue that progress. Some other things that are under implementation phase right now, a university-wide advising center, particularly for first-year students. The comment was made earlier by the board about how important it is that as we look at a new tuition model, it's very important that we look holistically at students progressing toward a degree in an effective and efficient manner. The University Advising Center is a part of that answer. It's not the full answer, but that's a part of that answer. And study abroad expansion, tenure and promotion, e-submissions. There's a host of other implementations that the implementation group, led by, it's all faculty led, have done a really phenomenal job at bringing all these things to fruition. So a lot of compliments to them. Rural Reimagined, our grand challenge, continues. Just a reminder, this is an accelerator for rural initiatives that we hope will be replicable to other parts of the state and country, and also scalable. I'm happy to report that as of now, over 1,000 students and 50 faculty have been involved in 50-plus projects directly impacting rural communities. It's pretty substantial within a relatively short period of time. To get that much buy-in, and if you have a chance, hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to some students at a future board meeting that have been involved in some of these. Their excitement and passion is really, really encouraging. You'll love hearing from them. So some of the things that have been going on, looking at exploring new cash crops for rural landowners, addressing unique needs of rural health care, improving writing instruction in the Upper Cumberland, back to healthcare medical clinics with providing free dental and medical, care, and we're looking now, we should be announcing shortly at least a couple of partner communities where we will sign memos of agreement with particular communities, rural communities, on what our relationship will be with them and what kind of things we will work on together. So we're moving that in a very successful way, I think, already. Student to career, I know this has been a focus of the board as well. How do we ensure that the value of a Tennessee Tech degree really does pay off? And that's not just with walking across the stage and a diploma in your hand. This is, in a very tangible way. What does that mean for your career? So the whole student to career culture is beginning to change here on campus. Dr. Russ Kaufnauer is in charge of our career development office and really pushing things in a very positive way, doing things with freshmen and sophomores as well as juniors and seniors, looking at core competencies involving career management, communication skills, a lot of the soft skill development, as well as what you would expect in the traditional curriculum. Doing careers and coffee employer events. Their handshake software allows students to apply for internships and jobs on the phone. And just to give you an example, the Spring Engineering Fair that was actually held on campus last week, I think it was last Thursday, and I'll be honest with you, I was a little nervous about being able to pull this off because that was just 2 days after the tornado hit Putnam County. We had over 160 employers show up. We were pretty well maxed out for employers. I don't know, 800 or 1,000 students, I guess, came to interview with those companies. And about a quarter of those companies were new. They had not been here before. Mercedes-Benz is a notable example. Mercedes-Benz out of, Tuscaloosa, Alabama area had never come before. I spoke with them as well as some other companies, and they were all excited to be here. The feedback I received personally was very inspiring. I'll tell you what one particular company representative told me. She indicated that we go to a lot of career fairs. We're on a lot of campuses, and we can always tell where there's a campus, when we're on a campus where they really care about their students. And her statement was, you guys clearly care about your students. So certainly made me feel good. I don't think she didn't tell me that just because that's what I wanted to hear, but I did, and appreciated that. So sort of in wrapping this up then, we're continuing to make history. The decisions we're making today build legacy for students and alumni. We want to continue to clarify and simplify information for students. We want to lower the energy barrier for students to be successful, to come to Tennessee Tech, to achieve a degree at Tennessee Tech and go on and have a great career. We want to continue to gain more transparency as well as predictability and focus on best student to career path. So one thing you're going to do during this meeting that's very important, and I'll kind of leave you with this, is that simplicity benefits students. And we've tried to make it really clear and simple for this particular board meeting. Students that graduate sooner, pay less, and earn more. That's the bottom line, and that's what we're interested in. So the flat rate tuition model that we've been discussing for several weeks now is before you this afternoon for your approval. I highly recommend that you give that very serious consideration. The staff on campus have done a phenomenal job of modeling that and looking at all the ins and outs of that and tried to come up with the absolutely best plan possible to benefit students. And I think we've achieved that, and hopefully you will agree. The Tech Promise is part and parcel of this. To me, you could separate these two, but in my mind, they're absolutely intertwined with each other. We have to ensure that Tennessee Tech education is always affordable and accessible to any academically qualified student. And the Tech Promise, I think, goes a long way to ensuring that economic hardship should not be a deterrent for a student to pursue an education at Tennessee Tech, and I'm most excited about that, quite honestly. This consolidates fees, so it simplifies things for students and families, it gains more predictability, and obviously the board took steps this past December to lower out-of-state tuition to give us more market opportunities out of state. So a lot of moving parts there, but a lot of really good things, and it's because of your support and guidance that are helping us get there. So Chairman Harper, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, but thank you for your time.
I feel like we ought to just say, for the benefit of those who weren't here this morning, that during the Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting, we had significant discussion about where we are with the coronavirus, and I believe you reported that you and the cabinet are meeting this afternoon to make some decisions about
Yes.
where we go from here. And I know you kind of said that in passing, but I don't want people to think that the board has not weighed in on that we did consider that
No.
already, and you're going to be making some announcements later this
Absolutely,
afternoon.
and I've received, not only during that time period this morning, but also in private conversations with many of you. I think I have a good feel for where all of you are in this, and I appreciate your support on behalf of Tennessee Tech and all of our students to do whatever we think necessary and fit to make sure that students are safe and secure and served appropriately academically throughout these challenging times. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but we should come out with an announcement later this afternoon.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments for the president on his report?
I just wanted to thank First Lady Oldham for creating the Winds of Kindness Award. I think it did occur at a time that it was needed, but we have a lot of kind students around here, and they should be recognized for that. And I also want to thank her for representing Tennessee Tech so well. So
Thank you.
Add our thanks to that as well.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Okay. Next on the agenda is the Executive Committee Recommendation Report, and I chair the Executive Committee, so I will be given this report. TTU Policy 005 on board committees specifies that the Executive Committee is responsible for making a recommendation related to the President's performance-based pay adjustment. And the Executive Committee met in February, I believe, of this year and made a recommendation. I think some of you all were at that meeting or attended by phone. But the recommendation is for a 1.012% increase to the president's salary and a bonus of and by the way, that would be retroactive back to January 1st of this year, consistent with what we did with the other employees, and a 4.11% bonus. I'd like to entertain a motion, and then we can have discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Van Hooser. Thank you, Mr. Stites. So we have a motion and a second for a 1.012% increase in salary retroactive to January 1st and a 4.11% bonus. Is there any discussion? Again, I'll say we had a lot of discussion about this in the Executive Committee, so it may be that we don't need to talk about any more. All right. Oh, Sally, Dr. Pardee?
I do have one point that I would like to bring forward to the board as a point of discussion. In our delivery of consideration as a board as to how we approve base pay for all employees at Tennessee Tech, I do want us to recognize that we had a year where we are missing recognition of 9% of the high-performing staff and 7% of the high-performing faculty for 2020. This is a revisit of the data that we received in the December board meeting. So while I anticipate that it doesn't impact our discussion of the decision for our president, our one employee at the moment, I do want it on record that I think we as a board have a responsibility to ensure that all employees of Tennessee Tech are recognized for their high performance.
Thank you for that. Are there any other comments? And Dina Metz would want me to say we have 2 employees. Our internal auditor is also our employee, so I don't want her to be feeling left out. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote.
Jones,
Aye.
Lowry,
Aye.
Pardue,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Segurdy,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Harper,
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. We also had some other administrative business in our executive committee that I'll just report on, and that is that for the upcoming year's president's review, performance review, our policy or our guidelines, which one is it that sets, procedure, thank you, sets out how we will handle the president's review. And that's the responsibility of the executive committee, but the chairman can actually appoint a representative of the executive committee to do that. And I have appointed, with her approval, Ms. Van Hooser as the executive committee representative for the president's review for the upcoming year. So Ms. Van Hooser will be performing that review. We also approved a schedule for that review, and I believe that's available to all the board members in board books. Are there any questions about that before we move on? Don't think there would be. That's pretty administrative. And then the last item from the executive committee was just a reminder to everyone that we have an obligation, and our procedures specify that this is an obligation under our presidential review procedures, that we will consider 2 years after, on the second anniversary after the first assessment of the president, which puts us at the end of this coming summer. We will consider whether or not we want to do what's called a comprehensive review, which is where you go out and you get input more specifically from the entire campus community. Now, just to remind everybody, we currently get feedback from the faculty through their normal review process. We have an extensive review with the cabinet members and each board member, and all of that will be, we will continue to do all of that regardless. But a comprehensive review might reach out to more of the students, more community members, lots of other people. I offered at the executive committee, and I've had some feedback that people didn't disagree with this, that we may not be, here's the challenge of this kind of a process. It sounds like a really good idea, but they're pretty expensive to do because you have to do them. You generally would hire a consultant to do this, and it's a 5-digit number to hire a consultant to do this. And I think at this point, frankly, we have enough on our plate, and the money, I think, can be better spent right now, focused on other things. So I'm not making a judgment now, and it's not my judgment to make, but I am suggesting that I'm probably not going to be advocating for this at the end of the summer. But I do want you to be on notice that I'm going to advocate that I think we should consider a salary survey for the president, comparing his, because I gave anecdotal information at the executive committee, accurate, but I don't mean that like I just, thought up these numbers, but we had a few data points at our executive committee meeting. I'd like to do a legitimate salary survey comparing responsibilities and salaries and total compensation package, excuse me, for the president. I'd also like to have a more comprehensive review of faculty and staff salaries as well. And I'll just mention that Dr. Krickenberger, I think, has been working on such a report. She gave me a draft of that report for the faculty and staff, not for the president. So I would hope that by the end of the summer, we could be in a position where we might be able to take a more holistic look at our salaries and hopefully think about what we might want to do there. I can tell you that I think not only is our president below market, I think our faculty and staff are below market as well, and I think we need to be thinking about that. They're not grossly below, but they're enough below that we need to be looking at that pretty hard. And I don't have to tell the people around this room that this is a zero-sum game. So we want to be careful about raising rates for our students, but at the same time we want to keep our great faculty, staff, and president. So we'll be trying to find that balance, I can assure you. And as we think about the rest of today's meeting, that might all roll in. Thank you. Yes, I actually thought of it as I was talking and didn't mention it. In addition to approving the schedule and Teresa Van Hooser as the Executive Committee representative, the Executive Committee also approved questionnaires that will be used with the Cabinet and with the Board to assess the President's performance for this past year. So when we go into the next round, we will be using a survey that you all have, or the Executive Committee rather, has approved. I think that's everything from the Executive Committee. Is there anything else that I didn't cover, or anybody have any questions or concerns about any of that? I know it's a laugh a minute of the Executive Committee, isn't it? All right. Thank you. I think our next item for business then is Mr. Stites has the report from the Audit and Business Committee.
So we had a very good Audit Business Committee, and if I can find it here. Here we go. Okay. Here's a summary of the items we discussed in this morning Audit Business Committee meeting. The sale of W. Clyde Hyder Farm Lot, potential sale of the lot located at W. Clyde Hyder Farm to Putnam County for the purpose of building a fire station, the generic renaming of buildings and roadways, renaming the current fitness center, the Academic Wellness Center. The new fitness center will be called the Student Recreation Center, and the large lab science building will be called the Laboratory Science Commons at 8th Street through campus will be named Wings Up Way. We had an update on the governor's budget, recurring state appropriations increase of $3,630,100. A salary pool was included in the budget for $1,349,100. $500,000 was the final year of the 4-year NSF grant for cybersecurity. And we got $43,500,000 for the new engineering building. And roof replacement phase 4, $2,100,000. And building controls upgrades phase 1, $3 million. And then there's the notice of responsibilities for preventing, detecting, and reporting fraud, waste, and abuse. As required by law, a notice of responsibility of the board, management, and staff with regard to preventing, detecting, and reporting fraud, waste, and abuse has been added to diligent for the board's review. So Chair Harper will introduce item number 1, the land disposal by the easement.
So we dealt with this morning. Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Stites, and then we can have discussion?
I would. Upon the committee's recommendation, I move that the board approve the disposal of land for temporary construction easement and permanent sewer collection and disposal easement on North Franklin Avenue as described in diligent tab 6.2.1.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Again, we discussed this fully in the committee this morning. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Jones?
Aye.
Lowry?
Aye.
Pardue?
Aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Sigardi?
Aye.
Stites?
Aye.
Van Hooser?
Aye.
Wilmore?
Aye.
Harper?
Aye.
9 ayes.
So the next item is a flat rate tuition model and Tech Promise Scholarship. Upon the committee's recommendation, I move that the board approve the flat rate tuition of $4,530 per semester for students taking 12 or more credit hours, and $319 per credit hour for students taking 11 or less credit hours, and to apply these rates to all incoming new undergraduate students effective fall 2020. Additionally, approve a Tech Promise scholarship to pay the last dollar of tuition and mandatory fees for up to 8 semesters. The students receiving the Tech Promise scholarship must meet all of the following criteria. Full-time undergraduate students assess tuition under the flat rate tuition. Students with a family adjusted gross income of less than or equal to $40,000, and students receiving both the Hope Scholarship and Pell Grants.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Is there any discussion? I believe we mentioned this morning, but we had a special meeting of this committee about a week or so ago where we had about a 2.5-hour discussion about this. So is there any further discussion today? Then I'll entertain a roll call vote.
Jones?
Aye.
Lowry?
Aye.
Pardue?
Aye.
Rose? Sigardi?
Aye.
Stites?
Aye.
Van Hooser?
Aye.
Wilmore?
Aye.
Harper?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Well, Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, I think we've just approved something very important. And we didn't say a lot about it, but I think it's a really important thing for our school. And Mason, I understand the students are very excited about that. At least the Student Government Association on behalf of the students seem to be excited about this. And I hope this turns out to be as positive for the university as we all believe and we have modeled. Dr. Stinson, you did a tremendous job, and Dr. Oldham, your leadership, and I know Dr. Bruce, I'm going to get in trouble starting naming people, but Dr. Bruce did a tremendous job with the research on why this was a good idea. And so there's just been a lot of work on this, and we just get to enjoy the hooray, but I think it's a big hooray. Thank you, Johnny.
I think our committee was convinced that this would be a much easier way to explain what our costs are to new students. And I think our committee believes that it will be well received and help parents plan for the future much easier.
Exactly. And I should have mentioned Dr. Johnson in the people I was thanking, and probably 10 more, but those are the people I could think of. But thank you. And I think that's everything from your committee. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Ms. Rose, you want to give the report on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to. We actually had 4 reports from our committee today, one on academic affairs, one on advancement, one on our enrollment activities, and then last on athletics. For the academic affairs report, Provost Bruce provided us an update on the Vice President for Research status, as did President Odom here just shortly ago. Provost Bruce also shared with us the happenings in the academic program reviews, quality assurance funding, as well as new academic minors, concentrations, and certificates. She also made us aware of the measures that have been taking place on campus to ensure that we have continuity of instruction should that need arise, which we've talked about a little bit already today, and made us aware of the online platform called iLearn and the various capabilities with Zoom. We then went into the advancement report. Dr. Braswell provided us an update on the fundraising activities for the new engineering building, some of the same information that President Odom shared with us here just shortly ago about having $5,553,000, which is 61% of the goal that we have for the engineering building. Then we went to the enrollment report with Dr. Johnson, and he shared that we're slightly up in applications, and he also shared some information about some of the wonderful recruitment events and activities that we've had over the last several months. So it's wonderful to see how everybody's stepping up and collaborating together on that, making all these events successful. Then the last report was on athletics, and President Odom filled in for Mark Wilson today on that and gave us an update on case out of California and the impact that that's had on the definition of names, image, and likeness, which he referred to as NIL, and some state legislation that's taken place in Tennessee as well as across the country related to student athletes and using their names and likeness. So that's kind of where we were with that report. None of those required any action. We did have an action item that I think you're going to take up.
Yes, and before you move on, I just need to reiterate, because I thought Dr. Pardue did a great job with this morning. I want to make sure the broader group hears how much we appreciate what the faculty and staff did, faculty in particular on these preview day and these VIP visits and all of this. I hope the faculty know what an impact you're making in terms of our success in converting students from recruits to students. Dr. Oldham gave us an example of a student that had he described it as some other school in Tennessee that wears a lot of orange, and they had us and they had MIT, and they were hands down with us because of our preview day. And so that's just, I talked about that balance earlier between revenue and costs and getting faculty salaries up and keeping costs down. That's the secret, is getting more throughput. I mean, this is, come from the energy business, we talk about throughput, we talk about feedstocks and throughputs, but we need more students on the ground here, and this will be the secret. And so I just thank the faculty again for that. So, and then Ms. Rose, you have one more recommendation, I think.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. We did vote on one item that we took action on, and it was an action item to prohibit smoking of electronic nicotine and non-nicotine delivery systems. And that pretty much expresses the purpose of it. So the motion from the committee is that we move that the board approve TTU Policy 171, prohibition on smoking and electronic nicotine and non-nicotine delivery systems as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
It might be worthwhile to mention that I believe it was stated that this will be reviewed every 2 years, correct? And that initially, we're not having any non-smoking areas on the campus. Of course, as we go forward, there's items that we can review depending on how this is implemented.
Did you say we will have no smoking
I'm sorry,
areas?
no smoking
Yeah,
areas,
yeah.
sorry, yeah, caveat.
We won't have any areas where you are allowed to smoke other
Correct.
than,
So if you're
I
living in the
think,
dorm, you have to go off campus. to
right,
smoke.
or in your own car, as I think I understood it
With- yes,
earlier.
exactly.
So,
Yeah. But
is
it
there-
is reviewed every 2 years, so I just assume there may be some implementation issues with this, enforcement issues. So in a couple of years, if there are any substantial things, it's going to be reviewed anyway.
Okay, that's good input. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Jones?
Aye.
Lowry?
Aye.
Pardue?
Aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Sigardi?
Aye.
Stites?
Aye.
Van Hooser?
Aye.
Wilmore?
Aye.
Harper?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Do we have any other business to come before this board? I'm just going to say, before I adjourn us, please everybody stay safe, because we are in a very precarious time. So do what's right for you and your family, and I know the president has got a very big decision in front of him today, and I hope we'll all think about that and wish him the best, and say whatever we can say in our hearts about that, because we're very respectful of the decision that has to be made by the president and his cabinet today. Keep everybody in mind. Those of you who were impacted by the tornado, one more time, we're just so sorry, and now I understand there's more storms coming, so everybody be safe getting home. Thank you all very much for being here, for those of you who traveled, and I will call us adjourned.